These students will never forget this history teacher's heartbreaking story. Mr. Andrews was famous throughout his school for how hard his class was. History was genuinely his passion, and he wanted to share that with his students. Mr. Andrews did not mess around. He expected his students to do the work he assigned with no shortcuts. His practice of assigning excessive amounts of homework made him somewhat unpopular amongst the student body. Even though his class was tough, everyone did agree that Mr. Andrews was a great teacher. The parents felt like he truly knew his stuff, which can be sometimes rare for a public middle school teacher. Mr. Andrews went above and beyond the required course material and would teach long but animated lectures. He was truly gifted. He was able to make the weirdest subjects interesting without losing his students' attention. Every Friday, he would bring out his guitar and sing traditional folk songs to his students. His whole class would sing along, and it became a relief from the stress of all their other classes. One day, towards the end of the school year, a school counselor walked into Mr. Andrews' room with a serious look on her face. As the bell rang for class, she thanked Mr. Andrews for his kindness and reminded them to be respectful. She then stepped aside so Mr. Andrews could address the class. On the screen behind him, there was a picture of 3 young adults. Mr. Andrews shared with the class that the people in the picture were his children, his 2 daughters, and his son. He began to tell the students stories about his kids when they were growing up, and how much his son loved breakdancing. All of his students were confused at this point, but they could tell that this was very serious, so they continued to listen attentively. Mr. Andrews quickly fast-forwarded to when his kids became adults. He shared that his oldest daughter was getting married. He said that one day he received a very urgent call from his daughter telling him to come home as soon as possible. He said he thought there might have been a slight issue in the wedding planning, so he wasn't too concerned. Upon arriving at his home, he began to panic as he noticed several police cars parked outside. As he entered the house, the last thing Mr. Andrews could recall was an officer saying, "We found your son inside his home, deceased from what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound." Mr. Andrews told his class that there was no one in his family that noticed any warning signs that this was going to happen. A week before his son had passed, he told Mr. Andrews that he wanted to go to college to become a history teacher, just like him. Following his son's passing, everyone was shocked when it was revealed that he had a fiancée that no one knew about. Throughout Mr. Andrews sharing his emotional story, all his students remained motionless, not making a sound. They could tell which parts were most challenging for him when his voice broke or he took long pauses before continuing. It was clear that Mr. Andrews found it very difficult to share this story each year, but he did it so he could educate his new students about the lasting impact of self-harm on the family and the community. He made sure to always end his story by telling his students that they must always reach out and ask for help when they need it. The students were moved by the story, and from that day forward, the students treated Mr. Andrews and everyone else with nothing but the utmost respect.